Hello, Dr. Mike here. This is for my Cybersecurity version 2 series, which is for updated textbook. And this is on topic 9. This is part B, which is on IDS, Intrusion Detection Systems. So it's the same chapter, so chapter 3 in our new textbook. And let's look about page 68. We come in here and we talk about types of IDSs. So it's a good chapter. It has some good information here. The reason why I'm just going to go through this real quick is because I have a previous video that really covers this topic in depth. This is from my previous series, so I've cut out the areas I don't need and have just the IDS here. So it's important to understand placements, components, active versus passive, signature, signature use, firewalls. Of course, firewalls are more than just detection, but they're a great source for logs, for activity. And you can see here our NAT setup and intrusion prevention systems and proxy server use. So it's a good chapter. Look at all this information here. And the reason I'm not going to go to it in depth here is because you'll see it here in the full video. Antivirus endpoint protection is definitely important as part of your IDS, because endpoint protection definitely, you want to have different layers of protection and pop-ups. So it's a pretty good chapter. And again, not much has changed, so you're going to see it here. I'm going to cut to this video in a second. We'll add, this video has some stuff on the cloud architecture at the end, which isn't very long. It's a couple minutes. I was going to pull up, actually leave it, because cloud is important. It's everywhere, and it's more than just it's either cloud or not. A lot of times you might be having hybrid. You might have a cloud and on-premise systems. And still, if you have cloud, where you put detection, where you pull logs from is going to be an important aspect. Don't just assume the cloud's secure. Don't assume it's, you got to keep in mind it takes different architecture, different mindset, but still you want to bring in some ways to detect certain activities on cloud systems. And also, it's possible the cloud provider might have their own. So if Amazon or Azure has their own detection systems in place, do they put sort of a WAF in front of you? Do they provide logs to you? Do they provide alerts to you? So always start thinking of cloud with any of these topics and security. So there's a small section about cloud. It's a little bit of a review. That's for the last couple of minutes, but otherwise it's about 10 minutes here, and you'll have basically the previous video which talks about the placement and the use of IDS and IPS. So I'll cut that video now. Thank you. Network analyzers are great. If you do have places where you can plug in analyzers to collect information, you definitely want to do that. You don't want to do this on the actual devices themselves. So if I have a switch, for example, I don't want to collect and parse data on a switch. I want to mirror that out, and so on. So here you can see we have sensors and collectors set up, grabbing information and allowing us to go ahead and process that. And something else I'm going to bring up here, which I'm sure that the chapter probably does, and it might be in a different chapter too, but this is a good place to put it here too. Let's take this image for example, right? Here we have our web server, email server. Let's take this little chunk here. Web server and email server. We have our DMZ. It's supposed to be a D. It's like BMZ, or DMZ. And so we have, of course, our switch here in place, and we have a firewall. Now, you can collect locations, in front of the switch, behind the switch, between the switch and firewall, between the other two firewalls. Again, this is our DMZ, so here's our internal firewall. You can see here, location 1. And you can see where it's important to go ahead and grab this information, and it should go to a network security server. Again, you don't want to do anything, parse information on this device. You want to keep this operating as a switch only. But also, I'm going to add to this chapter here, these devices themselves, this web server and email server, let's take those two for example, they have system logs. Logs are key, the lifeblood of administration for security, which includes not just hacking attempts. It includes security of hardware failure, disaster, A software failure, a bad deployment in production can cause some bad issues in a web server. But in any case, our log files are going to be critical. And again, they collect here. They should also use something called a remote logging server. So either behind the firewall, we should have logging servers also where these logs are mirrored. I just moved it. That's pretty cool. These logs are mirrored to a logging server. And this can be done with open source, Splunk, or of course there's there's commercial rackable devices that'll do this. This is part of your larger play on collecting information about your network, the health of your network, and the health of your systems on it. And I say health because this could be error logs and so on. So this is going to be used not just by security, but you have DevOps, excuse my mouse spelling there, or security team, or now, which we see is DevSecOps, sort of work together. And we'll see here in this chapter, there's ways this will be dashboarded and looked at. And the idea is you can parse here. This device can, its job is to run parsing scripts and display web pages. And also, if this device dies, or the logs are scrubbed, we have a copy of them here. So, and then again, go the same with these collection agents too. So, there you go. See, I knew I got to hit myself. Logs, 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 logs. Yes, you definitely want logs. They are going to be your trace evidence for forensics. I say forensics, I'm not talking about criminal. Could be. Maybe someone's hacking. Maybe it's an internal threat. Maybe someone's trying to get information out. And we don't see the internal IP, what desktop is trying to transfer a zip file full of confidential information. Maybe it's just threat information about someone's trying to hack us. What does the hack look like on our email server? What kind of stuff are we getting hit with? Logs might contain useful information. Or if someone does breach into the system, those logs are going to be key. And then they scrub those logs. We have the logs on the logging server. So log analysis is definitely going to be a key thing here. So again, log out. I'm just going to move past that. Data from devices. Again, data is key here. Security data is a couple of things about it. One is they give too much data, and you get a lot of noise. So being a really good cybersecurity analyst, InfoSec officer, InfoSec, whatever we call it, engineer, again, this is going beyond the ability to, can I do a pen test? It's ability, can I communicate with development? Can I work with DevOps? And can I find the signal in the noise? Can I get rid of the noise that we come across and find out these unsuccessful logins or suspicious outbound connections? And a lot of times you might find yourself really creating rules for other devices to alert on these and auditing and monitoring those rules. So there's other stuff too. The data itself can be used called data execution prevention, DEP, file integrity checks. So again, we go beyond the network here, even though I think it's network, administrating secure network is our topic name. Think beyond the network, look at the data, and think about the device that came from, and maybe there's these things you can put into play to help secure those, secure the software itself too. So, web app firewalls is one example. You can run app-based firewalls around a server. Application whitelisting only allows certain things to run. Don't allow removable media to be attached. This goes as far as actually disconnecting USB devices, or by seeing the solder them in, or open the case up and snip the connections. So, malware management. This is usually referred to as endpoint protection. Very important to have something in place for that. Again, issues analyzing security data. There's a lot of data. There's a lot of it. So it's going to generate, generation, storing, and analyzing this information can be intensive, and it could be a cost that's not thought of. So it's important to bring that cost up front and say, if we want to have, this is what we need for security, and we might need to do certain things, levels of auditing, maybe for PCI compliance or HIPAA compliance. So you'll have hopefully some money already in place for this, but be aware that it is costly. And you can see here an analyzer, essential device analyzer. Here's a centralized device log analyzer. This is the kind of stuff you'll see in a DevOps room with multiple screens across a big wall, teams sitting behind rows, almost like a NASA launch facility. And I've seen some where they even had the weather weather maps for current locations where they have their data centers. And information about cloud providers, how their stats looks, almost like down detector per se, but more hardcore. And also internally, how are we looking? What's our hourly trends look like? What's our data look like? Are we within the norms? Are we seeing regular amount of web traffic? And if we're seeing above, what is it? Is it regular traffic? Is it expected, unexpected? Maybe it's expected. Maybe you have a sale, and then suddenly your websites blow up because everyone's buying your new widget. But the unexpected, the unexpected login attempts, and why aren't we blocking them? So visual, managing security platforms here, cloud computing definitely is going to come into play here. Cloud is a lot of places, and you need to make sure you treat that cloud as part of your network. Now, cloud is bringing a lot of good bonuses. One, of course, is capacity on tap, backups, multi-regional backups, basically multi-region, like AWS has multi-region cloud servers that are synced on the database end. If Amazon Virginia East goes down, I can bring up the West Coast Pacific AWS and be up and running my entire website within minutes. So that availability, if we get right, that CIA, that availability, the cloud really does come into play. Integrity and confidentiality will still, don't assume the cloud is a secure business to cloud. It needs to be audited, it needs to be monitored. And so on. So cloud computing is going to be a huge part of this. Virtualization, which is really part of cloud computing, but it could also be internal. You might be running your own data center and using virtualization. So again, ensuring proper failover, patching, and configuration for virtualization. Software-defined networks are great, and it's going to allow you to really be flexible. This is almost like goes on the same tune as the VLAN, but beyond that. Understand your cloud computing. Where is it hosted at? How's it hosted? Don't forget we have software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, and there's security as a service also. But let's talk about the first three here. If I'm running a blogging site through like Blogger or WordPress through an actual provider, through actual WordPress, I'm probably going to get some level of patching and monitoring that I wouldn't get if I just install my own blogging software as infrastructure. However, maybe business rules say I need to install and modify my own blogging software. So I run as an IIS. This includes operating system patching, monitoring. So really just think of it as they're your computers. You should monitor them as such. So the cloud itself, most of the time public cloud is fine. Private clouds are very expensive. This is usually government level stuff where they don't want any who's being co-hosted, who your neighbors are. They don't want any co-hosting without any other .govs. But hybrid cloud is something you might see as people roll off from having their own data center in-house and using like an AWS cloud instance. They'll have some capacity internal, and then some of it will be out external. And it could be one of those things where they're slowly moving to the cloud. A lot of times it's not a turnkey solution. And so you have this thing where you need to bridge these both together and monitor this as you would these and vice versa. So communication between those devices should be known. A lot of times you use a virtual private cloud, VPC, for that. It's going to help out with that. And again, monitor this connection, monitor who has access out here, who has got the keys, who has dev access, who has admin access, and so on. So again, there are challenges. Probably the biggest one I've seen, and if you do some research, really easy, you'll see articles about misconfigured, bucket, AWS bucket, has exposed thousands of records. Misconfigured, test instance has allowed access, to an attacker. Misconfigured is the key here. You see that misconfigured? That is actually the biggest things. The cloud brings in a lot more complexity, and it's easy to miss something and assume it's probably taken over for you. We assume it's secure. Don't assume. Verify the configurations, and it might look and feel different from when you have an internal server. So the software-defined network, I'll go over this. SDNs are great. Again, how it works, I'm not going to read the slide to you, but it's definitely something you'll look at. So that wraps up the chapter